Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1866B, and today's date is May 13th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Boom Week Ahead, C Comes Before D, No Sleep in D.C. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about being prepared. Now, we know there's natural disasters, and we know there's the deep state that likes to push a certain agenda. Think about some of these headlines. California's big utilities remind public of plans to cut power during fire weather. Experts assess damage after first cyber attack on U.S. grid. And then there was a terrorist camp found in Alabama. We know the deep state, they could do just about anything. These are stories we're not hearing much about, and we should pay attention. Ask yourself this question. If the power went out for weeks or your credit card was of no use, could you feed your family? Could you survive? If the answer is no, it's time to act. I like to use my Patriot Supply for my emergency food supply. You should too. Start with a 2-week emergency food kit and then order a couple at a time over a period of time. They're inexpensive, and by using the link Prepare with X22, you can save up to $62. These food kits include breakfast, lunches, and dinners that last up to 25 years. You know, when it's breaking news, it's not too late to prepare. So prepare with X22.com. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, it looks like we have a huge week ahead of us. Q is telling us that this is going to be boom week coming up. And we know the watch says the 19th. So what I'm figuring is that May 19th might be the date at 4:50. So when we start to look at everything that's been going on, we can see the players in D.C., well, they're panicking. And they're trying to get ahead of all these stories. We know that Assange, for instance, the Department of Justice, they want Assange back here in the United States. They're trying to extradite him, and they would like him, most likely, to testify in a lot of these hearings. And what's very interesting about all of this, we see that the Swedish prosecutors, they are reopening a rape case against Julian Assange. Now, why would they do this at this point? Because the deep state players that have everything to lose, they're trying to stop Assange from being extradited to the United States. Joe M. tweeted out the following. Extradition of Assange to the United States is a good thing. The only place on earth he is safe is in the hands of our own Department of Justice, although it would have been precisely the opposite if the witch had won. Yes, Joe M. is correct. The Department of Justice, as it stands right now, Assange is going to be safe. Actually, they want him because they will need his information. Remember, Q has been telling us we have the source, and it looks like Q is right. They do have the source because Ecuador's Attorney General has informed Julian Assange's lawyer that Julian Assange's files, computers, mobile phone, and other electronic devices will be seized during a search of the London embassy and sent where? To the U.S., to the Department of Justice. And they greenlighted a U.S. request to provide it with access to the documents and the electronic devices, all the information, the source of all of it. And all they need is Assange. And the U.S. has until June 12th to build a case for extradition. Remember, the charges that they're placing on Assange goes back many years. And I do believe they will extradite Assange back to the United States. I know the mainstream media and everyone's out there saying that Assange doesn't want to come back to the United States, but I think this was part of the plan. I think this was all part of the plan because we can see that starting most likely next week, a lot of information is going to start to come out. The D-Class is going to start to come out. The OIG report is going to start to come out. The sealed indictments are going to be unsealed. And they're going to need Assange during this period because I believe there's going to be trials. Court TV is back online just in time. Now, Trump is also calling out FBI Director Christopher Wray. And he tweeted out the following. Just another abuse of power in a long series of abuses of power by the Democrats that began during the Obama administration. continued through the Mueller FBI operation, and now the baton has passed to Jerry Nadler to continue to abuse power to harass Trump. And the Democrat National Committee, the Democratic Party apparatus, has been caught using donor dollars to collude with Russian intelligence to attack a domestic political opponent, me. The FBI has no leadership. The director is protecting this same gang that tried to overthrow the president through an illegal coup. Now remember, he actually put the word overthrow the president through an illegal coup, recommended by previous Department of Justice. So he's saying that Wray has the information on the gang. Now remember from Post 2555, this was on December 5th, 2018, Whitaker, Horowitz, Huber, and Wray met. Long meetings held within a skiff, unusual, usually indicate something highly important was discussed, planned. And if we go back to Post 1862, which is August 13, 2018, it says, what does Wray know and when will he release to the public? Now, this is very interesting, and I believe Trump is doing the same thing that he has done with Sessions, making it seem like Wray is part of all this and he's protecting information. And it seems like this is part of the plan. Now, what's very interesting is that Barr released the unredacted report, which is 99.9% unredacted. This is volume 2. Still to this day, not one Democrat went in to read it. I mean, they had all these questions for Barr. They were questioning him up the wazoo. Wouldn't you think they'd just be a little bit curious and they would want to read the unredacted information? But no one has gone in there to read it. And Rand Paul calls bullshit on the whole thing. Senator Rand Paul said that all the Trump investigations have all been politically motivated. One of the things that Adam Schiff and other partisans don't understand is that if you accused of a crime by a grand jury and they don't indict you, the prosecutor doesn't go all over town saying, we thought he did this. We thought he did this. This is all the evidence. He also said most Americans would disagree with the federal prosecutors who claim that President Trump would be prosecuted if he weren't in office. People are horrified by the idea that you could put someone in jail for obstructing justice on something where you didn't commit the crime. That's exactly right. He didn't commit any crime. He didn't obstruct anything. Mueller was able to finish the fake report because there really was no crime. There was no Russian collusion. It was made up. You have to go back to the beginning and find out why all this happened. That's the whole point of this. Now, what's very interesting is Representative Ratcliffe. He said something very interesting while he was being interviewed with Maria Bartiromo. Take a listen to what he said.
Time and time again. As I listened to that, Jim Comey is proud and wouldn't change a thing, really. He's proud that he put Peter Strzok in charge of investigating Donald Trump, the same Peter Strzok who, while he was investigating Donald Trump, promised to F him and to stop him. He's proud of his hand-picked deputy director, Andy McCabe, who lied under oath, lied to the inspector general, and has been criminally referred for that. And, of course, we know Jim's proud of himself, but the inspector general found him insubordinate, and many of us believe that he either is or should be under investigation for violating the Espionage Act, for recording his conversations with President Trump in the Oval Office and then intentionally leaking classified information to start this investigation. So, Maria, as you know, as a former federal prosecutor, I've worked with hundreds of FBI agents, and over the last 2 years, they haven't used the word proud once to describe Jim Comey. They use words like embarrassed and ashamed, and every time he sends out a tweet or pens an op-ed or conducts another town hall, he just tarnishes the brand of the premier law enforcement agency in the world that he unfortunately once headed.
So are we going to be able to trust the FBI?
This is what he said. And we know Jim's proud of himself, but the inspector general found him insubordinate, and many of us believe that he either is or should be under investigation for violating the Espionage Act. Now remember, Ratcliffe is one of only a handful of people who saw and continues to see all of the highly classified intelligence documents, fully unredacted, currently under consideration for declassification by Trump. Ratcliffe was also strongly considered for the U.S. Attorney General position. Ratcliffe knows he slipped the word in there is, which means Comey is being investigated. Trump tweeted out the following: despite 2 years and millions of dollars spent, the Democrats are acting like crazed lunatics since the results of the Mueller report were made public. But they knew there was nothing even before the report was started. It is all a big hoax, the biggest in American history. And if you notice, Trump and many others are continually going back to the beginning. How did this start? We need to find out. And we know that they've been investigating this all along. Now let's head out to Iran before we get to Q's posts, because there are certain interesting things that are happening out in Iran. Now, first of all, Iran hasn't started a war in over 200 years. Yes, they were in wars, but they haven't started a war. Do I think Iran wants to start a war with the United States? Absolutely not. Does the deep state want to start a war? Yes, they do. Now, Mike Pompeo decided to scrap a scheduled trip to Moscow to meet with Putin to head over to Brussels, to the EU, to try to convince them in dropping the Iranian deal. Now, what's very interesting is that Trump was being interviewed on Fox, and a reporter said, "What do you mean by that statement?" And the statement was, "It's going to be a bad problem for Iran if something happens. I can tell you that. They're not going to be happy people." And then Trump said, "Well, you can figure it out yourself. They know what I mean by it." And I believe he's speaking to the deep state. He's speaking to those individuals that are pushing Iran to keep the deal. We know that Kerry was out there, and Trump already pointed the finger at John Kerry in violating the Logan Act. Now, do I think Iran is going to go out and, fire at one of the aircraft carriers? No, that'd be ridiculous. Do I think the deep state would do this? Yeah, because they don't care if there's a war. They just want everything covered up. And Trump, it looks like he's specifically speaking to those individuals. Let's get into some of Q's posts. Post 3332. Q says, boom week ahead. Now, if we go back to Q's watch, we know that the 19th is on there. We know that May 19th is approaching. Q is saying boom week ahead, and we might see things being dropped at 4:50 on May 19th. And Q continued and said, treason doesn't pay well in the end. Well, it really doesn't. Post 3333 gives us a Twitter link to Representative Doug Collins. Now remember, Doug Collins has been dropping the transcripts on all of these players, Strzok, Page, and many others. And he has many others to drop. But I wanted to read 2 tweets that he has on his Twitter page. This one is pinned to the top. Democrats have launched a proxy war smearing the Attorney General when their anger actually lies with the President and the Special Counsel, who found neither conspiracy nor obstruction. Full statement below. Chairman Nadler knows full subpoena compliance requires Attorney General Barr to break the law. Yet instead of introducing legislation allowing the Attorney General to provide Congress grand jury material, Democrats move to hold him in contempt. They know the Justice Department is working to negotiate even as they pursue contempt charges, making their move today illogical and disingenuous. Democrats have launched a proxy war smearing the Attorney General when their anger actually lies with the President and the Special Counsel, who found neither conspiracy nor obstruction. And he also tweeted out the following. Dems are afraid of what the AG will find regarding FISA abuses at the Department of Justice, including how the Russia investigation began. Reports suggest those conclusions could be explosive and lead to criminal prosecution. Desperate Dems have resolved to neutralize Barr by attacking his integrity. Q says, eyes on Collins. Q. Take a listen to Collins. It seems that he has something big coming very soon.
you courageously have released the closed-door testimony of Bruce and Nellie Orr and the General Counsel Baker and Strzok and Page. There are 53 other closed-door testimonies that I am aware of. Will you continue that release?
Yes, get ready for that. I would tell anybody to stay close to Twitter, stay close to the next few weeks. We'll be releasing the rest of those.
Any this week, sir?
Probably not this week, but we're getting ready for next week. We want to let the Democrats, their hypocrisy shine this week, and we're going to get back and watch what Bill Barr is doing, and we're going to get back exposing this to the American people.
Right. Congressman Collins, Georgia, thank you.
So from what Collins is saying, it seems like he has a lot of information that is going to be coming out very, very soon. And remember, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence has a list of about 53 transcripts that they're going to release. And we need to go back to post 3328 for a second, where an Anon put up the warrior, and it says a warrior is the protector of his family and those in need. A warrior is the guardian of the ways of honor and courage. A warrior will not put his own desires above what is right. Above all, a warrior is always motivated by his utmost duty. And the Anon said D-Class is coming. Now, Q responded to all of this with something very interesting. D-Class pre or post IG report. This is in brackets in bold. Comey pre or post IG report. C comes before D. So what we're all expecting is that the Comey report might be dropped next week, and maybe Collins, he might be dropping this. Let's move on to post 3334. Q says, attempts by Dems, fake news, and those guilty of treason to shape the public narrative prior to by providing falsehoods would fail. Truth to light, no sleep in D.C. Everyone is panicking. I mean, Schiff came out today and said that, listen, Joe Biden's Ukraine corruption scandal should be off limits as the 2020 U.S. election approaches. Really? So all the illegal things he did in Ukraine, that should be off the table? Come on. You could see what they're doing here. Q has mentioned this before, that they're going to hide behind the 2020 elections. Well, guess what? You can't hide, because Biden is linked to Ukraine, to China, and many other people are also linked. We know that Comey has been tweeting out a lot about the Baker article and how they didn't hate Trump, and he was appearing on CNN's town hall meetings trying to explain his version of it. Baker is making the rounds. Strzok was making the rounds. They're all panicking right now. All the players, even Brennan, Clapper, all of them, they're all panicking. The Bradford File tweeted out the following. Adam Schiff was on ABC again this morning. He is now claiming AG Barr is part of the conspiracy. He was not asked to provide the evidence of collusion he promised. He was not asked about his secret meeting with Glenn Simpson. Schiff is scared. Lindsey Graham right now, well, he's working to declassify sensitive documents. That proves FBI knew Steele dossier lacked credibility. They're going back to the beginning, and they're showing something very important. How everyone knew that the Steele dossier was fake. Obama knew, Comey knew, Brennan knew. Everybody knew. Schiff, the whole entire gang. They all knew it was fake before they went to get the warrants. That's the whole push here. Because once they show that, which I believe they already have the information, everything falls apart. Post 3335. And Adam puts up a meme. And it's a Moab, mother of all palms, heading for Comey. He's standing on the street, and Comey says, shit. And below this it says, boom time, Baker. What we're seeing right now is the entire deep state panicking because they have no blocks left. They have nothing to use. The only thing they have left is an event. That is it. Everything that they set up, their firewall, their blocks, and everything else, all of what they set up, it's gone. All that's coming out now are the facts and the truth, which is going to lead directly to them. This is why they're trying to get ahead of the story, but it's going to fail. Because when you're asked certain questions and you provide the documentation with their signatures on it, what are you going to say? Well, I signed this because of this. And then you're going to say, well, we have this document showing that you knew it was fake. Well, they're in trouble. How do you get around this? You can't. This is why truth and facts will never be brought down with propaganda. Yes, they can scream on the mainstream media. Yes, they can call Trump names. It's all meaningless at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, they're going to provide all the paperwork. This is how a real trial is conducted, with facts, with proof, and they present them. They don't air it out on the mainstream media with propaganda. And they don't keep repeating the same headlines over and over and over to make you believe it. That's propaganda. That's what the deep state uses. This is why Trump, the Patriots, they're not relying on that. They're not doing that. They're saying, listen, we want to get to the bottom of this. We want to find every single piece of information, and we want to find out how this actually started. Did these people actually know that this was fake? And did they use the fake dossier after they knew it was fake to get the warrants? Because if they did do this, their entire case that the deep state is making completely falls apart, which means they colluded. Whoa. Where's the real collusion? The real collusion would be then with the deep state, with Ukraine, with Russia, with each other, to remove a president of the United States, to stop an individual running for the president of the United States. This is treason. This is why Q says treason doesn't pay. And it looks like it's all going to drop next week. This is why the players in D.C. are not sleeping. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.